is a tablet sitting against my laptop. Very basic stuff. So I've already installed Boomerang. Here you would get Boomerang or download Boomerang from the Play Store for Android devices. Best way to search for it is just type Boomerang Parental and our app shows up as a #1. So that's how we get started with that. So when you open the app after it's installed, the first thing you'll be presented will be the I'm new or login screen. This is the first screen that you're presented with Boomerang. We still get some folks that get a little bit confused on what to do next. Example, if you're new, you may be confused that you're new on all devices, but the reality is I'm new is really to create your account with us. So when you tap I'm new, you'll actually get presented what you want to do next, which is very important. So here we actually have two app modes, okay? One is a child mode, which is the one that we want to use to control and monitor and engage with the child. And then the one below here called Manage Devices is the one that you would set up on your parent device. And this is what I call the remote control part of the app, okay? So I'll just go back real quick to my main screen. And then login will actually bring you the same screen as a selector, but the difference is you want to use login on every other device in your family. So tap I'm new to get started, and then tap login on every other family device that you want to add to your family group. So again, this is a concept I just want to get up front and clarify right away. So for this demo, I will actually go I'm new because I'm going to create a new account. This tablet will pretend is a child device, so we want to control this device. So we'll tap on control. And here is where things get sometimes a little scary for some of our users. Here on a Android 5 tablet, you simply only need to look for what we call accessibility permissions, okay? And sometimes you'll have to scroll down a list. It's not very obvious if you're not aware of the Android settings, but this screen is actually inside the Android settings. And we have a service here that we're going to add way down here. I'm going to just pop my camera down there. You see here it says Boomerang Accessibility. You tap on that, and then here there's a toggle way at the top again. Not very obvious, but that's why we're doing this video. So you see the toggle. I'll tap on toggle, and here we're going to use these permissions to observe the actions on the device. And this is kind of the technology or the security we're using to monitor app time, block apps, and other features that we have with Boomerang. So once I tap OK, we've now enabled the permissions. This next screen is quite cool. This is where we actually have the screen time settings that we set, so the schedules, the allocated time. We have some defaults here, but feel free to play with these based on what you feel your family needs. You can also go right up to unlimited, which pretty much disables the allocated time. And then we have weekends as well. You can do the same thing. So typically weekends we're a little bit more lenient, but that's how we set that up. What's cool here is once these settings are set up on your child's device, they are now being tracked locally. So that device will automatically apply these settings and automatically enforce these settings. So it's very, very important to keep that in mind. Even if the device is offline, like no internet connection, the counter for the time allocated is still counting down when apps are used. And then when it's bedtime, the device is still going into so-called sleep mode. And then here, same thing, we have a schedule time. Pick any type of schedule you want. So here what we have is a morning start. So when should the device be available in the morning? And then when should the device go to sleep at night? And then you can tweak this for whatever you want to see fit, okay? So next up is our feature that allows you to add good apps, okay? So the previous screen talks about screen time, and you can do whatever you want with this screen time. So you can play games, you can be on social media, etc. Now, what we can do here with this add always allowed items, we can actually add apps that will always work, even past the allocated time. So let's say I set 2 hours, and I used up all my 2 hours today. I can add apps as a parent that, you know what, you're okay if you're going to go and do some language apps. Like here I have some examples here, which are not very good. So like Khan Academy would be a perfect example where I'm okay if Khan Academy is used all the time, right? And then I may not want to have, say, YouTube in here. YouTube is not a good example of something we want our kids to use all the time. So this gives you very good flexibility in terms of adding apps that are maybe educational based, apps that are maybe even music. Like with my kids, I actually use Google Music, and there's Apple Music, and I'm okay with music being used past the time because normally the screen's off anyway. Now I'm on a tablet. There's actually a section missing here that would go between the apps and the websites. Contacts such as like call mom, call dad, call uncle, etc. would be an additional layer that we can add here. So these items will then show up inside our Boomerang app on a child's device. And these are the ones they can tap and use anytime. That'd be the apps, the phone calls, or even websites. And websites we have very basic here, and you can add your own if you want as well, okay? So having said that, this would set up again apps or items that can be used past the screen time limits on your child's device. Next up, and additional options that are used quite often. Now we have a safe browser. I consider that like the second pillar that we really focus on, which is keeping kids safe when they're browsing. If any of us as parents go to our Google search on our Chrome browser, even Safari browser on iOS, there's no filtering. So Google does have safe search that you can enable, but you need to enable it, and it cannot be really enforced. So we actually created our own web browser. It's free, and it will get prompted to be installed after you install Boomerang on an Android device. And it allows you to browse, or allows your child, though we actually have a lot of adult users as well using Spin, to browse and search via Google, so your images are cleaner, safer, there's a lot less inappropriate stuff, and primarily the content you get is usually of educational purposes, not nasty stuff, okay? So this is a very big part. Spin also blocks millions of websites across categories such as gambling, violence, drugs, and pornography. So this is a browser that I highly recommended, even if you just use the browser. It's a huge benefit over the stock browser that's on any child's mobile devices today. So again, this is a big part of the Boomerang value here. The next one is quite exciting. No one does this today, though I'm sure they're working on it, but as a parental control app, we are the first ones to actually monitor your child's YouTube app viewing and the searches they perform. Now, I'll show you the report side after I'm done setting up these child devices, but this gives you an example of the power that we have in our app. So you can see what videos they actually viewed and the searches, so the keywords they might have used in YouTube. And of course, as a parent, if you see some nasty stuff, it gives you now an opportunity to sit down and say, hey, what was this all about? And that's really what this feature is about, is to give you insights into your child's behavior when they're on YouTube. And we all know that YouTube has the autoplay option and also has inappropriate content. And the other thing we do with the Android devices is that we will set up a daily report and share with you every day via an email digest how much time did they spend on each of the apps in the last 24 hours, and the websites that might have been blocked, and who did they call if they have a smartphone, who texted them, and et cetera, et cetera. So very, very powerful information you get every day. Now, here we're ready to create our account. And this is the email you'll actually end up using to join or log in to all your other devices. So you don't have to create a whole bunch of accounts with different emails. Just use the same email for all your other devices. So now we're almost done. So the catch here is we have one more piece of information or security we need to enable. And this is one that enables us to protect ourselves from being removed easily from the device. So this is a big part of, kids are sneaky, they find a way. This way you can activate this device administrator. In fact, you have to do it. And if you have a Samsung device, this is kind of neat. We've partnered with Samsung, so we actually have some extra code from Samsung that allows us to control the actual hardware. So we can disable things like the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi if you want to, or the camera, or enforce the GPS so it doesn't get turned off. These are some unique things we do on Samsung devices, and funny enough is the majority of our users are on Samsung, but in case you're in the market looking for a device that's an Android-based one, I definitely recommend Samsung as we get a little bit deeper in the hardware side. So the good news now is we're set up. As you can see, this is the child app on a child device. So this is Boomerang installed, and this is what I normally call the child dashboard, okay? So what happens here is very simple. So everything that you add to the Always Allow will show up here. So if I had more apps, they'd be here as shortcuts. If I had a smartphone, they would have phone icons. So I'd be able to call mom or dad anytime. So this is, again, the child dashboard.